hard-hitting questions where no candidate can butt in or dodge the question. Because every candidate has to answer the hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. Where no candidate can butt in or dodge the question. Because every candidate has to answer the hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. When no candidate can butt in or dodge the question.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper podcast. Great to have you back, Laura. How's things going?
My eyeballs are about to fall out of my skull.
Oh, I apologise in advance.
Yes, those bills were very meaty that you got me to read through. But anyways, yes, I am glad to be back on the show. Uncreative ways the government will screw you over.
What the hell? I mean, another week of urgency.
Seriously, over the dumbest stuff too. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, put it this way. I'm annoyed about the passing of the second reading committee house on the electoral amendment bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically what a great end to it. Like, put it this way. We could continue working through Christmas and we'll still have footage all the way up until when the House comes back to sitting at the beginning of February. That's how much crap was squashed into last week.
I swear to God, half of the bill, if not more than half of the bills, are just AI generated at this point. Because it's just like I'm just reading through it, and then I read through the Riz, and I read through the bill, and I read through the Riz, and I go, wow, these both contradict each other. Amazing. Wow. Now I've got to take down 1 million notes to explain to people how they contradict each other and why it's bad.
Oh, exactly. Oh, yes, I know exactly what you're saying there. And it's not easy having to try and basically juggle and make everything all fall into place. Yeah. Well, a funny thing is here, sorry to confuse people, but there's a new feature on Google Chrome. Oh, that's interesting. Because I've got a share, so if you want to, we've got our friends over here who are chatting away. You might remember that person called Brie Elliott.
Oh, wow, we're going to do a React channel. Are we going to react to Tanya Waikato? Brie.
I don't know. Let's see what they're saying.
I think what Tanya said is perfect. We need to be
perfect
mobilizing people
to vote.
This would impact them anyway. It's just so annoying. I'm just so over it because this.
In other news, have you seen Tanya Waikato's biceps?
No, but I gave her they're probably bigger than Simeon Brown's.
They're bigger than mine. Like she could probably bench press me. She's a very strong lady.
I believe that. I do believe that.
Yes.
I don't believe she is not just bark. There's a lot of bite.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of action.
Put it this way: if me and her had to spar in the ring against each other, she'd probably knock my head off. And I've been boxing for how many years now?
Oh, God.
I'm scared of her.
Yeah. Okay, so should we start off with the arms bill?
Yes, the arms bill.
Okay.
Show us the arms.
And let's kick off with my dad's friends, Duncan's wife, Nicole McKee.
Happen.
Not Duncan.
The question is that the motion be agreed to, or those of that opinion will...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the arms bill now be read a first time, and I nominate the Justice Select Committee to consider the bill. Mr. Speaker, Over 40 years ago, Parliament enacted the Arms Act 1983. Since then, politicians have spent 40 years amending and rejigging the Arms Act 1983. Each change made was stacked on top of the next, rushed through in moments of political panic or patch-ups, until what's left is a law that is confusing for licensed firearm owners, inefficient for police, and ineffective at stopping criminals. New Zealand deserves better. Mr. Speaker, public safety and respect for licensed firearm owners are not in conflict. They actually depend on each other. This bill starts with that simple premise. It rewrites the Arms Act in plain English with logical structure and practical improvements. The result is stronger firearm laws that better protects the public and a simpler regulatory system that supports compliance. Mr. Speaker, the tragedy of 15 March 2019 was a day of unimaginable horror for this entire country, and none of us want to see that again. But the arms laws that followed were rushed, confused, unfair, and they punished the wrong people. They targeted the responsible, law-abiding New Zealanders instead of checking the systems and processes that led to this country's worst atrocity. They even negated really targeting criminals and gangs when they made their changes. Good law is not made in a panic. It's made with clear heads, sound evidence, and respect for those who already do the right thing. That is what this bill does. Mr. Speaker, a core lesson from the past decade is that trust matters. For law to work, the public must have confidence in the system administering it. This bill creates a new independent firearms regulator to replace the Police Firearms Safety Authority. Its job will be to regulate clearly, consistently and transparently so that licensed firearm owners can comply without unnecessary burdens. It will operate independently of New Zealand Police, with an independent chief executive, and no sworn police officers will work within it. Police will retain all the information that they need for enforcement, but their focus can shift to where it should be, pursuing the gangs and criminals who put the public at risk. The regulator will be empowered to provide clear guidance in consultation with the firearms community, so licensed firearm owners understand their requirements and can comply with their obligations. This bill also sets clear limits on what information can and cannot be recorded in the firearms registry, promoting transparency and building public confidence. Mr. Speaker, I've heard the concerns about licensing delays, and this bill helps them. When New Zealand moved from lifetime firearm licences to 10-year licences, tens of thousands of people moved into the 10-year system all at once. So every decade since, the same surge and bottleneck has repeated for the same people. To put this into context, in a normal year, there are around 9,000 firearms licence renewals. This year, we are expecting around 55,000, and next year there will be around 50,000 renewals. To smooth this out, the regulator will have the discretion to be able to extend firearm licences for up to 3 years for some licensed owners whose renewals fall during the peak periods. Over time, this will end the bottleneck cycles each decade and create a steadier, more manageable flow of renewals. The regulator will also be able to issue infringement notices and educate licence holders for lower level offences, rather than revoking a licence as the only option. This keeps people in the system and learning, instead of pushing them out for behaviour that does not pose significant risk. Health-related suspensions are introduced and could last up to 12 months. Under the current law, many people lose their licence permanently simply because they needed more time to get help. That is neither fair nor proportionate. If a licence applicant disagrees with the regulator's licensing decision, a new independent firearms licensing review committee will hear their appeal. It replaces the current internal police-run process with a truly independent panel consisting of a lawyer, a representative from the firearms community, and an appointee of the regulator. Between October 2021 and March 2025, a third of appeals in the District Court resulted in a different outcome, showing exactly why this change is needed. The current Act, Mr. Speaker, is not fit for purpose for people whose work or expertise requires specialised use of firearms. Pest controllers and biosecurity organisations perform essential work protecting our environment and agricultural community and economy. Their endorsements will be extended from 2.5 years to 5 years with a mid-term check-in. Multi-user agreements will allow restricted firearms to be temporarily transferred among approved pest control employees for up to 7 days without triggering unnecessary paperwork. Dealer licences will be renamed business licences to reflect the variety of modern firearms-related businesses we have. Compliant holders will have their licence duration extended from 1 year to 5 years, directly addressing one of the most frequent complaints that I have heard. Business employees will no longer require endorsements on their personal licences, subject to controls being in place. And gunsmiths will be able to conduct short-term repairs on restricted firearms without a permit to possess. Import permits will be extended from 30 days to 12 months, reducing administrative burden for both businesses and the regulator. New licence classes have been introduced for museum curators and their employees to reflect their unique circumstances, ensuring their rules are not disproportionate or so costly that they have to shut down. Collectors will also have greater flexibility around where the vital parts of a prohibited firearm must be stored. Mr. Speaker, if we want to improve public safety, we must ask, who is driving the offending in New Zealand? And the answer, overwhelmingly, is criminal gangs. Gang members represent less than 1% of New Zealand's population, but are linked to around a quarter of all firearms offending. And this bill deals with that directly. It introduces automatic disqualification for gang members from holding a firearms licence, new offences for straw purchasing and diversion, offences to tackle 3D printed firearms made by unlicensed individuals in possession of digital files used for illegal manufacture, and significantly increases penalties for over 60 offences. Many have been untouched since 1983. This bill also clarifies product definitions, rules around manufacturing, and closes loopholes relating to large capacity pistol magazines and blank firing guns. For individuals who inadvertently find themselves in unlawful possession of a firearm, there are clear pathways now back into lawful ownership. One of the simplest and most important improvements is allowing secure storage at any regulator-approved location, not just a primary residence. Students that live in halls, renters, and many other people who are simply unable to meet the secure storage requirements will now have a safer choice for security. Mr. Speaker, this bill balances safety, fairness, and practicality. It strengthens the law where criminals exploit it, and it simplifies it where licensed firearm owners have been burdened by it. It's not a bill that scapegoats legitimate firearm owners. It's a bill that fixes what matters. I encourage all New Zealanders to participate in the Select Committee process, especially those who will be impacted by this law. Consultation informed this law, showing that more voices make better law. This government values the vital role that farmers, hunters, sports shooters, pest controllers, dealers, museums, collectors, gunsmiths, and all licensed firearm owners play in our economy, our environment, and in our heritage. This bill is for them. And Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to acknowledge that one of my staffers that has been working on this bill with me for the last 2 years is having his birthday today. Happy birthday, Matthew O'Connor. I now commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Okay.
You want to go first? Yeah, go first.
Okay. For those who are wondering, we have just put up a poll on the page. Should firearm users be required to have indemnity insurance? So just something to sit there and do that, as some people believe, some people believe in compulsory insurance. This could be one area that goes with it. So what I've given is it's fixing up many things that are currently wrong with the system. It's interesting that effectively you certain regulators have to reapply yearly, which I think is in line. Now, it's not in line with firearms, but in the lines with, say, if you're a driver's license instructor, you have to renew and resit your license every 12 months in order to retain that thing there. And that is interesting. That's been shifted to 5 years. And also the other one is about the business one, about having a 5-year instead of a 2.5-year one, but you have a midway check-in to make sure that you are not misbehaving. So those are the bits being in there. It's interesting about taking the regulator out of it. My father believes that the regulator should be the New Zealand SIS, as he believes that is the right government agency that could do the job, because it would have actually flagged one particular person who shouldn't have got one, as Nicole McKee also mentioned in there. So maybe that's something that could be in the submission. It's interesting how the fact that Nicole McKee wants to get it completely away from the police. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's an interesting one to have. And the other part I'm a little bit interested in, and I'm concerned about, is some firearms license holders having it up to a 3-year extension. I'm wondering how that category will be risk assessed, because I don't want to see a situation where someone who really probably needs to be checked now, given a 3-year extension, while someone who probably is getting checked to some degree as it is, being required to sit there and do it. Now, on a previous Order Paper podcast, we had Marina Karatai mention the fact that with a gun license, to apply for a gun license, not only do you have to go through with referee checks and that, you also have to actually get approval for. You have to get support from your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that if you've just come out of the psych ward of a hospital, of course your doctor won't sit there and agree for you to have a gun license. So that's also that's under the existing system. And the other part is also, I think it's this is more moving it into a progressive licensing system rather than just basically, because I think at the moment there's only a Class A and a Class E, and pretty much basically there's no like build-up period or anything that goes with it. You're just pretty much just basically, it's like you get the license and you're straight in. How driver's licenses used to be before we brought in the progressive licensing system that we know is now. So this could be one that, you can sit there and train yourself on a single bullet gun before you can progress to, say, a magazine that can hold 6 bullets in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and that's just little bits that is not just what Nicole just said then, but also mentioned other bits that are in there as other parts of what she said in the media as well, and drawing between the lines. That's my 50 cents worth.
All right. Okay. So
Yeah.
I read through the Riz, and guys, this bill is not as bad as everyone thinks it is. She's actually done some pretty good stuff here, such as like putting in penalties for getting a blank gun and converting it, or getting 3D printed guns. That's very important. That is a loophole that she has successfully managed to close with this legislation. So there is some good stuff here. Unlike the other bills that ACT have presented, this is actually a bill. It actually has a foundation. So just to go over, provide an overall summary of her speech. So her argument rests on 6 key claims, which can be grouped into 3 categories. So basically, first is a critique of current law. She claims that it's confusing and ineffective, and on confusion, she is correct. It is confusing legislation. I read that bill and I was like, what the hell? The law is a patchwork. It's leading to absurd contradictions, like the Kia gun. Now, do you have a picture of the Kia gun? Do you know what a Kia gun is?
I wouldn't have a clue, but let's see what Google...
Show everyone what a Kia gun is.
So, a Kia gun.
Yep, Kia is in the bird, and then...
Oh. How do we spell it?
K-E-A.
K-E-A. Okay. That's a lot better than what I originally came up with on there. Okay, here we are.
Right, so that's a Kia gun. It's a beautiful looking gun. I would like one of those because I like old vintage things. But, okay, so a Kia gun is a single shot tool legally defined as a pistol, but is unusable under modern pistol rules because it's not a semi-automatic pistol. It takes a single bullet that you have to reload. Now, the reason why these guns are called Kia guns is because they were used to, unfortunately, shoot Kias that were munching on the backs of sheep. We don't do that anymore. But these are still a popular vintage item, right? Now, are you telling me that this is more dangerous than a semi-automatic pistol?
Certainly not. You can only do 1 bullet at a time.
Yeah. So, again, this is a pistol that, for whatever reason, it's been unfairly categorized as a prohibited weapon. So you can't practice with this weapon on the firing range, right? It's basically you can only hang it up as a museum piece, which is a real shame because I would rather people do target shooting with one of these than a semi-automatic pistol. But again, so that's one of the problems with the legislation. So you got not little contradictions, big contradictions like that Nicole McKee actually attempts to solve. So I'll give her credit there. So the second point I want to go over, you can take the gun picture down now, but the bill's proposed fixes. She promises a simpler, fairer system. Here the evidence is mixed. So some changes like streamlining business licenses, clear simplifications, others like allowing prohibited firearms for sport shooting, were advised against in the regulatory impact statement as costly and inefficient. But as I pointed out before, with the Kia gun, you couldn't. This is technically a prohibited weapon. You can't take that on the gun range, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting that the ministry has said no, we don't want this gun around. But we're okay with semi-automatics. So Nicole goes on to claim that a new independent regulator will build trust. This is a sound theory, separating administration from enforcement, but the success of this is going to hinge entirely on execution and perception.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is one good thing that she brought up is active consultation with the firearms community. That's very good. As someone who is a progressive libertarian, someone who's a left-wing libertarian, I believe very strongly in active consultation.
Yes.
And I
And
give
it's
that one the
something-
thumbs up. Yes.
Yeah, and that's something you would expect from Nicole for someone who is in the gun community.
Yeah. So I do appreciate that aspect of the bill, the active consultation with firearm owners. That's really important because they have lived experiences that you need to take into consideration. Yeah. The most contentious claim that she makes is that this bill targets criminals and gangs more effectively, but this is not fully supported by official advice. The minister's push for automatic license bans for gang members departs from the ministry's preferred option of maintaining a case-by-case discretion due to significant privacy and rights concerns. So, and then to finish up, the political narrative. So McKee labels the post-2019 laws as rushed and unfair. This is quite subjective, right? It depends. Some people in the firearms community supported it. A lot of people in the firearms community did not. But what's important to note here is those laws followed a public health model to reduce the overall number of certain firearms. That's your semi-automatic rifles or your military-style rifles. This bill philosophically reverses that, so it moves to a controlled access model. So it doesn't just repeal, it reclassifies prohibited weapons as restricted. So it creates a new, more permissive licensing regime. And this is the core of her argument that the previous laws punished the wrong people. So apart from the gang stuff, right, I actually don't have a problem with the arguments she's put forward. I actually do think that this is a real bill, unlike whatever the hell David Seymour presented. So far, she's the only ACT member that's presented a real bill. Something that is workable.
As I say, she, of all the ACT, ministers, she's the best performer.
She is. Like she actually took her time writing this, and I could see that, okay, she's working from experience. She understands the issues with the bill, the current legislation, and she actually took good steps to resolving those issues. I strongly disagree with her about the gang stuff because it's important to do that on a case-by-case basis because we don't want a black market. We don't want people running off with other people's firearms. We would like to minimize that. But apart from that, everything else is actually quite good.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know what Kiwi Skirt is saying. Look, I'm an ex-ACT person, right? I completely understand where you're coming from. But one thing I have to do is acknowledge when something is good, because if our side of the fence gets in, right, we don't want to revoke anything good that this government has somehow managed to achieve, okay? Something that is helpful, something that's productive, because that's important. Like this legislation is actually really important for farmers as well. So it's important that farmers, living around them, have easy, practical ways to follow the law. It has to be kept simple, stupid, right? They're already working full-time on a farm. You don't want to give them shit tons of paperwork. If you've got something that's easy to follow and that keeps people safe, like what this bill is mostly doing, that's a good thing in my book.
Yeah. And this is something that my dad has comfortably said, Nicole will get this one right.
Yep, she's got this one 80% correct.
As my dad, who has known Nicole for many years, this is something he said, he is comfortable to say that will probably be her legacy, is rewriting the Arms Act into something much better and more suited with reality. And that, so far, that is clearly is the case. I mean, the big test will be is how does Ginny Anderson, who is the next speaker up, actually respond to it?
Oh yeah, okay, but yeah, your dad is correct. This is overall a good bill. I agree with 80% of what's in it.
Yeah,
It's the other 20% around the gang stuff I don't agree with, but the bones of this bill is very good.
yeah. Okay, let's see how Ginny reacts. Oh, and get the right one on it. That's the one we want.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Jenny Anderson.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this bill, the Arms Bill. This bill is a major retreat by Nicole McKee from what was originally threatened or promised. But this is a major win for public safety in New Zealand. What was initially meant to be in this bill was enabling military-style semi-automatic weapons to be used on a gun range, that the Firearms Safety Authority would be taken out of New Zealand Police, and the Firearms Registry would be changed to exclude weapons such as A-category firearms. None of those things are in this bill, and that makes New Zealand a safer place. The fact that I held public meetings in Auckland, Wellington and in Christchurch on the risks of deregulating military-style semi-automatic weapons, that we ran a petition that got numerous signatures, that media engaged, that New Zealanders made it very clear that we did not want prohibited weapons, military-style semi-automatic weapons that were used in the Christchurch massacre made more readily available in New Zealand. And it is heartening that that those voices were heard loud and clear, and that this bill does not make that dangerous change. I know there are many members of the Muslim community in New Zealand who will be grateful to see that change has not been made. The Firearms Safety Authority also will remain in police. That was promised to be taken out of police. When we looked at the costs associated with that early on, we asked those questions and did not get answers, but it is now clear that the cost would be over $500 million to take the Firearms Safety Authority out of police. Also, what it does is it stops potentially that real-time access of intelligence. When someone has had their weapons removed, that is up front when police officers are attending a call-out. That information is vital for the safety of our frontline and for the safety of our communities. So we are heartened to see that the Firearms Safety Authority is staying where it is. The Firearms Registry also remains intact. The Firearms Registry commemorated a big goal just recently in November, with over 50% of those people who are licensed now using the registry for their weapons to be licensed through that. That is a huge testimony to the fact that people do not have a concern with trust and confidence, and that they are making sure that they use Te Tari Pūriki, the Firearms Safety Authority, and making sure that licences are now included in that registry. That is an intelligence map for our police to be able to use to know where the legal firearms are, and when we know when the legal firearms are, it makes it a lot easier to trace where those ones who have been diverted are going. So we still have some concerns with this bill, Madam Speaker, and I think it's important we point those out. The provision in this bill that no police will have involvement in the Firearms Safety Authority, or blue shirts as referred to by Nicole McKee in her press release. We've had no real reason as why we would not draw upon the institutional knowledge of New Zealand Police and firearms when making these changes to our Act. They are the ones that have the most experience and the most insights, and it does seem somewhat of an ideological move to remove police from having involvement. I'd be really interested to know what the Minister of Police has to say about police not having involvement in the FSA under its new restructured form. The second one we would like to know about is the funding. There's no clear indication of who's paying for this restructure, potentially up to 50 or 60 million for the full restructure of the Firearms Registry, but unclear whether that's coming out of a police budget and impacting on frontline services, or whether it's a Ministry of Justice budget. It seems like it'll be a separate budget bid, so we would be very interested to know who's paying. And finally, we want to know the implementation dates, that these changes will take time. We want to make sure they're embedded properly. For this reason, we want to make sure these changes are made appropriately. We'll be supporting this bill to Select Committee on the clear reason that we want to make New Zealand safer, and that we're heartened by the fact that those initial threats made by Nicole McKee of military-style semi-automatic weapons, Firearms Safety Authority out of police, and changing the Firearms Registry, all of those do not change. We think that this is a win for public safety in New Zealand, and it shows that we, even though we have a firearms lobbyist as the Minister, she's been unsuccessful in achieving her goals.
Yeah, I agree with this. Okay, yeah, right. So, where was I going with my thoughts? So Ginny does accurately reflect the bill in that speech. She's correct that the bill does not allow for prohibited restricted firearms, so that's the MSSAs, to be used for sport shooting on ranges. She's also correct to point out that the FSA, or the Firearms Safety Authority, is going to be remaining somewhat in the police. It's going to be restructured to operate more independently as a specialist regulatory agency. So it's more or less working in conjunction with the police. It's going to be headed by an independent chief executive appointed by the Governor General, who's going to report solely to the Firearms Minister. Now, that to me is a bit of a problem. I would like to see that person also reports to the Police Minister. But yeah, again, like I say, unlike whatever the hell David Seymour has proposed in the past, this is actually a real bill. So you can amend that stuff. But yeah, the new regulator is going to continue to sit within the police, but without sworn police officers being involved. I think, considering recent events within the police, it's good to have a level of independency.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So the argument that, oh no, it's being separate from the police, there's a level of independency, but they still have to work with the police, right? And I think that is actually the right decision, considering what's happened recently. Now
I want to ask, what do you think? What is your opinion on the qualification to hold a firearms license? So I know when I was speaking with one of my neighbours at the Johnson Market, God, this is going back many years ago because this was before COVID. He's a migrant who's come to New Zealand. He's gone through the process of New Zealand residency, then New Zealand citizenship. He believes that only people who've got permanent residency or citizenship should be allowed to hold a New Zealand firearms license, vetted by, because he says if you're on a work visa or like was it March 15th? March 15th was an interesting one because technically he had temporary permanent residency because every Australian who comes to New Zealand is issued a permanent residency visa on arrival, but expires at the point of leaving the country because of our deal with Australia. But like he said, that would be one that shouldn't exist. But he basically said anyone who's, if you were to hold a firearms license, he believes that you should have to have long-term commitment to the country. So you're not coming and getting a firearms license and leaving. Like at the moment, you can come into New Zealand, get a driver's license, and leave, legally speaking. But he doesn't believe the same thing should happen for firearms licenses because, if you're being vetted by one country, in theory, you could be greenlit for a firearms license in a different country. There is that check in there, and his concern was he doesn't want someone who may not pass a check in Australia, pass a check in New Zealand, and then say go to the UK and go, well, he has a New Zealand firearms license. We're part of Five Eyes. Let's trust that.
Yeah, no, and that point is very valid. We should have licensing. Like if you've come in from Australia, right, and you've got a valid license, there should be a process for you to get a temporary license while you're visiting New Zealand to go for a certain activity, right? That stuff needs to be registered and boxed down and everything. Like that's just. I think there is a way to do that safely without mandating that someone becomes a permanent resident or becomes like a citizen. I do think we do need to have provisions that, like, for example, the military, right? When you've got military folks from overseas coming over to train in New Zealand, right? They've got. It's important that it's situations like that. It's important that. Say, like you've got Marines or whatever. They've got
a provision in place.
Yeah, there's a provision in place that they can practice using firearms, with the New Zealand military, things like that. Or you've got someone who's coming over here to do like a hunting trip. Exactly. It doesn't mean, hey, here's a semi-automatic rifle, go crazy. No,
but it's also having the fact that our system knows that they exist.
Yeah, and that the country they've come from, their firearm laws are compatible with ours. So there's like,
also like, because the other thing is like, if you went to Australia, and can I please transfer my license to Australia? You will get given an Australian driver's license with just on an application fee because New Zealand and Australia has a two-way system. I think that is also the same with the EU as well as the UK, which is interesting for the EU because they drive on the right. But that's the case there. Whereas if you say, hi there, can I please transfer my Chinese driver's license or my Indian driver's license? You have to go through the whole test.
Yep. And I think we need to have a similar system with firearms as well. Have special license exemptions, like for things like restricted weapons, as they've been called now. A tourist that's coming here should not be able to get a license for restricted weapons, unless, of course, they're serving in the military or whatever. They've got an actual legitimate purpose.
Yeah, they actually have the requirement, and our authority can talk to their authority and go, is this person, is this legit?
Like, we don't want some guy from America jumping over here. It's like, right, I want to get a temporary license so I can use my AR-15 at the gun range. It's just...
Which actually, in the United States, most states, you don't actually need a gun license at all because of the Second Amendment. Whereas in New Zealand, we've always had a gun licensing system and a training system in place.
I thought that some states in America, they do have a licensing system and a registration
some
system.
do, some don't, but the majority of the states don't. You don't actually require to have a gun license.
Yeah.
Because it's classed as a constitutional right. It's not classed as a privilege.
Yeah.
Where reality land is, it should be privileged. But the thing of the Second Amendment, it was written at the point of muskets.
Yeah, it was written at the point of muskets, and it was written during a time where, England's invading. We don't have a big army. We have militias.
And now they're the biggest military in the world. Where they spend more money on the military than some countries' GDPs. And considering the next biggest military is China, and they're a quarter of the size of the United States military.
Look, the good news is I'm glad that even though Nicole McKee kind of started off with an American style legislation, she's like, oh, okay, I want all this and want all that. Yeah. She appears to be receptive to criticism and feedback, unlike some other MPs in the ACT party. I'm quite glad that she's kind of gone with a more EU approach.
I think she wants to make sure that her legislation passes. Here's something worth noting. Did you know that it passed with 123 votes?
It did. Even the Greens, some Greens came on board. Yep. So it is important that, and I'm glad she understands the importance of bipartisan support, because it means that, we've got something that is clunky, we've got something that needs to be reformed, we've got something that we don't want to punish farmers or legitimate gun owners.
And it might be
we also need
one of the few acts that actually survive after the next election.
It will survive because, like I said, it's a real bill. It's got bones. It's got stuff you can work with.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get on to Scott Willis.
Madam Speaker.
Scott Willis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill, the Arms Bill, which repeals and replaces the Arms Act 1983, has the laudable goals of aiming to provide for greater protection for the public, simplifying regulatory requirements and improving compliance. So those are all really laudable goals, and the bill, as it stands, could well achieve some of these things. On public safety, as we've heard, there are good changes, such as recognising that multiple people within the system share responsibility for safety. Regulating blank firing guns, which we know have the potential to be transformed into live conventional firearms. Restricting high-capacity pistol magazines to endorsed licence holders. Requiring firearm businesses to notify the police of all surrendered firearms that will enable checks on those firearms to see if they have been involved in criminal activity or stolen. And requiring the regulatory approval for commercial ammunition sales. Now, these are all really good things, and there's a range of new offences as well which will address real risk and help future-proof things, like new offences like failing to notify the loss or theft of a firearms licence, the unsafe storage of firearms, possession of firearms without a serial number, possession of files that would enable 3D printing, as we heard, or intentional diversion. And as a parent, I really do support the change allowing licence holders to have secure storage facilities at any location approved by the regulator, such as in my gun safe rather than in a flat somewhere in Wellington that may not be as secure and may not be desired by the landlord. This certainly will reduce risk, and it is part of the really positive changes that we see in this bill. And I'm particularly pleased that the Associate Minister did not succeed in allowing greater access to military-style semi-automatic firearms. That's a rare moment of spine shown by National to stand up for something. But we know the Minister wanted to and still wants to give public access to military-style semi-automatic firearms, and we're concerned that some changes have been made more from spite than from any rational concern for public safety. So while this bill as it stands today, does offer a number of improvements, it makes one big change that we believe will create more risk and reduce oversight and transparency. And for this reason, we will not be supporting this bill in its current form. Removing the regulator from the police seems more like a petty, vindictive act based on some vibes from some small group of firearms owners than any responsible act. The police have a unique and valuable perspective because they're on the front line of gun violence. They're often exposed to gun violence and they're at the greatest risk of gun violence. That free-flowing information flow is valuable in reducing risk, but their expertise is not included in the regulator, and that is extremely problematic. Instead of repairing the relationship and rebuilding trust between firearms owners, businesses and the government, the Minister has stripped the police of responsibility as some kind of weird punishment. The police should be involved in the regulator and in addressing violent crime rather than being tasked with responding to mental health issues. So we understand that this bill will proceed without our support and will move on to Select Committee. However, I would encourage the public listening and my Labor colleagues here to seek the retention of the regulator within the police, reporting to the Police Commissioner, because we can't allow some petty punishment for some imagined slight to reduce public safety by removing police oversight. The police who deal with violent crime and gun violence, removing the police just increases the risk to the public, and for this reason we oppose the bill in its current form.
Okay, so I should probably speak to this one first.
Yeah, good
I'm
idea.
gonna break ranks here. With
You're allowed to.
with the Green Party, because we can do that. I actually think this bill is worth supporting because the bones of it are actually pretty good. His concerns about the police, valid, right? That shit needs to be fixed. But everything else, like the banning of like people holding 3D printing blueprints and, you know, the idea of getting stuff registered and the flexibility around where you can store a gun safely, very important. I think those are absolutely worth supporting. But I'm glad that Scott did say in its current form, because it means that if amendments are brought forward that will make this bill better, we can support it, because I do think the bones of this bill are actually pretty solid.
And like, I mean, it's first reading speech as well, and the first reading speech is meant to be agree with the principal foundations of the bill. The second reading is agree with the improvements that go with it. The third reading is agree for the final masterpiece.
Yeah, so I have no problem with this bill as it is going to Select Committee. I think, you know, like, this is weird. Why am I defending Nicole McKee here? But yeah, look, Scott is about 80% correct about what he said, but the idea that police expertise and information flow is excluded is not entirely true. The bill mandates that the regulator must share registry information with police and that the police must share relevant information like criminal history with the regulator. So it's this, the police expertise is not removed from the equation. So that's part of the reason why I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this going to Select Committee.
Yeah. I mean, the other one is, if it wasn't the police's regulator, who is the right body for it on expertise? Like, do we put it to the Ministry of Defence?
Yeah, good question. Yeah,
because, like, you know, Ministry of Defence actually has even more experience in it than the police, because the Ministry of Defence, you know, like, they specialise in weapons.
Yep.
You know, they specialise in it. They do a shitload of training on it. Like, you are required as a what's it called? It's like pretty much like any role within the Defence Force, you are required to be trained in firearms.
Yeah. This is going to be a weird segment to label, because it's like, you're probably going to label this, Nicole McKee actually wrote a bill, ? And it's not bad.
So ChatGPT comes up with the titles. So I put in the Hansard and I say, choose a title from the Hansard that best reflects it. And ChatGPT spits out some suggestions.
But ChatGPT can give out some pretty lame suggestions.
Yeah, but it put some interesting one on, which I think you made a comment on recently about the
that was funny. Yeah, we want funny. We want funny titles. That's fine.
Yeah, it's like what was it called? It was about It was about the was it Minister confirms was it M bovis vector as imported semen amidst tough tough biosecurity scrutiny.
Yeah, I think that.
The annoying thing about Scrutiny Week is the fact that you don't have Hansards.
Yes.
So I had to get the transcript from our shows to get GPT to make the titles.
Oh, that was a good title. Once in a while it does cook, but I think a great title for this segment would be like Nicole McKee wrote a bill, and it's not bad? Question mark.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's definitely quite intriguing just how it all falls into place.
Because it's not a bad bill. Like I keep saying, it's like there's things I don't like about it, but most of it I actually like. That's the problem.
It's something that I've been looking forward to actually seeing it happen. Like people are like going like, oh, it's going to be a bad bill. It's like, no, I'm actually looking forward to it. Like I'd like to have a sit down interview with Nicole McKee on this.
Yeah, it's just like like I'm sitting here going, what the fuck? It actually makes like a lot of the stuff actually makes sense.
Yeah, no, this is something my dad and I talked about was like, can we get a sit down interview of it? And Dad says like, hell yeah, you should actually sit there and do that. This would actually be good because, that would, because he says like, no, knowing Nicole before politics and all that, what he sees in the media is not the Nicole he knows.
Okay.
So and that's the frustrating thing. But so it's interesting parts we'll talk about legislation, and this will be the bit that he will actually get. He will sit there and say yeah, this is actually Nicole trying to make things work.
Yeah, no, like I said, Nicole actually wrote a real bill.
Yeah. Okay, let's watch the seat warmer speech, and then we'll get on to Dr. David Wilson from New Zealand First.
I call Kyle Bates.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this Act is designed to ensure that we promote the safe possession and use of arms. And there's a couple of things within the Act, or within the bill rather, that I thought I would highlight as part of that objective. The first is the clarification of the 60 offences down into 8 offences. I think that really ensures that we're clear that there are offences for doing things wrong, but we make them easy to understand. And secondly, the independence of the Firearms Licensing Review Committee. So therefore, I commend it to the House.
Huh?
Madam Speaker.
I call the Honourable Dr. David Wilson.
I rise on behalf of...
not the Honourable, just the Dr. David Wilson. Thank you.
I'll respond to both.
Okay.
I rise on behalf of New Zealand First in this first reading of the Arms Bill. We'd like to commend the Honourable Nicole McKee for her work on this bill. Relevant, practical, balanced. This bill is not about ensuring New Zealand's firearms laws are fit for purpose in the 21st century. Should I say it is about that. The Arms Act 1983 has served us for decades, but recent events and reviews have shown gaps in licensing, compliance and enforcement. For example, responding to the emerging technology in firearms such as 3D printing. The Arms Bill strengthens oversight of firearms ownership, dealers and clubs while ensuring legitimate users can continue their activities under clear and fair rules. New Zealand First has always stood for balance, protecting public safety while respecting the rights of responsible firearms owners. Our party policies have consistently emphasised the need for strong licensing, secure storage and tough penalties for criminals, while ensuring that hunters, farmers and sporting shooters are not unfairly penalised. We believe in practical, enforceable laws that target misuse, not tradition. We support this bill because it delivers exactly that balance, Madam Speaker. It strengthens police powers to deal with unlawful possession and trafficking, ensures dealers and clubs meet modern standards, and introduces tougher penalties for those who misuse firearms. At the same time, it provides certainty for responsible owners, recognising their role in rural life, food production and sport. For New Zealand First, this bill is about fairness, ensuring criminals face consequences while law-abiding citizens retain their rights. Madam Speaker, we commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
Now, Carl, you need to pay attention to what Dr. David just did. Dr. David gave a very good seat warmer speech. You gave a very bad one.
I wouldn't call Dr. David's speech seat warmer.
I mean, it's very much like, yeah, this bill is cool, but he actually put effort into making that speech.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, he explained why it's cool.
Yeah, and actually, yes, if we look at the time frame, yes, it was only about 2.5 minutes. But on the other hand, it's 2.5 minutes of actually a bit of information.
Yeah, like the 3D printing and like making sure that it's fair and practical in places where you can safely store your gun, and that's very good.
And like, here's the thing: is parliamentary Hansards are a very useful thing, especially when new pieces of law are challenged.
Yep.
So judges have to go through the Hansards and work out what was the intention of. Oh, and thank goodness, and Judge Judy would like it. They can actually watch Parliament TV and actually sit there and watch it properly. This is something that Judge Judy, like, she believes that she would, like, if she says an appeals court, it would be handy to actually watch the people, what were the demeanour and all that sort of thing, rather than just reading a Hansard. That's something in there. So Judge Judy would approve with the fact that we have cameras in our Parliament that would actually, where you can actually look at the mannerisms of the MPs and that sort of thing. And secret sworn speeches like Carl do not help judges with trying to find out what the intent of the bill is.
It's like, bro, you could, I don't know, look, I don't advocate for laziness, but if you're that strapped for time, just put the damn bill in Chat GTP or whatever and go, give me 6 cool points about this bill, and then actually make a speech out of it. Shit, I don't know. Like, look, National's already using AI. Look at all the AI ads they've made.
Yeah, exactly. Is it just not happening at Cal Bates's office? But then the thing is, every single National MP literally has done seat warmer speeches throughout this whole bill. I know the House was in urgency at the time the bill was read.
It's like,
but
it's urgent to stand up and say this is cool and then sit down again. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. Put some substance to it. Yeah. Should we get to Aureni?
Yep.
Madam Speaker, I call Aureni Kaipara. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before setting out Te Pāti Māori's position on this bill, I want to acknowledge the wider context we're debating it. Across Aotearoa, many communities are confronting rising violence, deepening inequality, and ongoing pressures that disproportionately affect those with the fewest resources. Those communities, as we very well know, are tangata whenua. Firearms legislation sits at the crossroads of public safety, political influence, and community wellbeing. How this House chooses to regulate firearms is not just a technical exercise. It reveals whose safety is valued, whose voices are centred, and whose interests are given priority. It is in that context that I rise on behalf of Te Pāti Māori to oppose the Arms Bill 2025. Our position is clear. This bill shifts power away from the community safety and toward political interests, including powerful firearm lobby interests, while failing to address the real drivers of harm in our communities. This bill includes over 50 separate policy changes. It rewrites more than 60 existing offences and creates 8 new offences. It loosens rules for firearms users, pest controllers, collectors and dealers, and it establishes an entirely new firearms regulator deliberately distanced from sworn police oversight. And we must be honest about where this direction is coming from. This government's decisions appear aligned with the interests of lobby groups rather than with the people most affected by gun violence. The move to hand all regulatory powers to a new independent regulator is not necessarily about improving safety, Madam Speaker. It risks politicising gun control and weakening safeguards that were strengthened after the 2019 Christchurch terrorist attacks. Recent data suggests that gun crime in Tāmaki Makaurau is rising, and that the majority of these offences involve illegally owned firearms, not licence holders. This trend shows that loosening regulation doesn't necessarily help the people, like our hunters, who use firearms responsibly, but rather may benefit those who obtain guns illegally or misuse them. From a Māori worldview, whānau who use firearms responsibly for hunting, pest control, or mahi on their whenua contribute to the oranga or the wellbeing of their whānau and whenua. Our concern is not with them, our concern is with protecting life, whakapapa and mana, which demand strong and culturally informed regulation. If this government were truly serious about reducing gun harm, it would invest in whānau support, violence prevention, housing security, mental health services, kaupapa Māori responses, and action against illegal firearms, not deliver a bill shaped by lobbyists with weakened oversight that sidelines the voices of people living with the consequences of gun violence. Therefore, Te Pāti Māori cannot support a bill that, under the guise of reform, shifts power away from community safety, risks public safety, and ignores the real issues facing our people, not just Māori, but all New Zealanders. The responsibility of this House and of this government is to protect our communities, our whakapapa, and our mokopuna, not to appease political pressure groups.
All right, who wants first crack at this?
The only thing I've got to say is, why the hell at the bottom of the hand sign is the motion is agreed to, there's no vote breakdown.
Oh, all right, okay. All right,
That's
let's break down. All right, that's your 2 cents worth. Okay, let's bring up what Oreni said. So she brings up a few points that are absolutely worth debating. And the first one is shifting power away from community safety. Now, the bill does introduce new safety measures supported by the ministry, such as regulating blank firing guns. That's good. And putting in place new offences for 3D printing files. That's very good. That was actually one of the concerns I had with the original bill. But I'm glad that's been corrected for. But there is validity in arguing that independence from the police and the reclassification of MSSAs reduces safety. Absolutely. Of course there's validity there. Failing to address the real drivers of harm, illegal firearms. Yeah, so I actually do think this bill does take steps in the right direction to reduce illegal firearms, such as straw purchasing, reducing new offences for straw purchasing and diversion, as well as new offences for the possession of digital files of 3D printing illegal firearms. So I actually do think Nicole McKee actually did take some good steps forward towards addressing that. So I don't know if this is like, I'm sure gun lobbyists are like, oh, why didn't you relax everything? And I'm like, well, this like at some point you just, you've got to have safety involved.
Yeah.
Sorry, gun lobbyists, you can't shoot everyone. You shouldn't shoot anyone, full stop. Oreni is correct to point out that this bill does not address social issues that result in the use and the uptake of illegal firearms. But very important to note is that this bill does not claim to address the socio-economic drivers of harm. That's more of a holistic thing. You have to go across multiple different bills and amend those in order to really get down to the socio-economic drivers of harm. If Nicole McKee, I don't know, became a left-wing libertarian and figured that one out, I would be eating my woke hat. But Nicole McKee didn't do that here. So we continue. But yeah, overall, Oreni does a really good job of identifying the bill's scope and the creation of an independent regulator and the general loosening of the regulatory regime for specific user groups compared to the post-2019 laws. She does accurately reflect the bill. It's just that her criticisms of it is more to do with the government's approach to other things like mental health and policing. And all. It's more of a holistic complaint rather than a bill-specific complaint.
Yeah. We're going to skip over Tom Rutherford because he's got a seat warmer speech and go to Vanushi Walters.
Concerned that the shift we'd be discussing today would be a shift to change our position on semi-automatic weapons. And that is not the case. That has been a failed attempt today because of the work on this side of the House, but also because of the work of many people in the Muslim community and many people in the community who've been lobbying against that. So I did want to just acknowledge Philippa Yazbek from Gun Control and the important work that she's done, but also the Federation of Islamic Association chairperson Abdul Razak, who said one of the key legacies of the 51 Shahada was to make New Zealand safe, particularly from the menace of the semi-automatic killing machines. So this is an important moment to mark what grassroots campaigners, what our ethnic communities can do when they have their voices heard by this House, and I think it's extremely powerful. We will be supporting the bill through to Select Committee, but as the Honourable Ginny Anderson has said, there are concerns that we have and things that we will be raising. The bill is a significant one, 232 pages to go through, and I'm looking forward to really robust submissions from those in the community about the detail of the bill. I do want to acknowledge the officials who produced this great document called Arms Bill Explanation of Proposals. It has an excellent spreadsheet that goes change by change through what the law is now and what the changes will be. A huge aid in terms of making those submissions. And I wanted just to speak to some other choices that have been made in the body of the bill, which I'll certainly be questioning at Select Committee stage. So The first one is in relation to the health-related licence suspension. So right now, if people are deemed not to be in a sufficient state to hold a licence, those licences can be suspended for 3 months. And if the licence is not reinstated in that 3-month period, then it expires. The person cannot apply for another licence for a 10-year period. Now, there's a change in this bill that extends that to a 12-month suspension. On the one hand, it feels like that would mean a potentially safer community because those licences can be suspended for longer. However, it also gives the person the opportunity to remediate whatever the issue is, which then avoids the 10-year problem. So it's a choice that's been made that strikes a particular balance. The question is that balance the correct one? Another interesting one is around the definition of penalties and what constitutes premises or not. So the current law assumes that you must keep the licensed firearm in a secure place within your premises where you normally reside. Now, for many people, that's not going to be the place where they normally reside. And the example used in the document provided by officials was students, for example, who may be flatting elsewhere but may need to keep their firearm in a location that's separate from where they live. So some extremely sensible changes made, including changes around the printing of parts of what could be used as a firearm. So acknowledging that technology is developed in a way that means we now need to accommodate for that. There is Section 7 Bill of Rights Act advice to the committee on this as well that says that the bill is compliant with the Bill of Rights Act. However, there are a few matters to interrogate for the committee as we go through select committee stage. One is around freedom to relay or not to relay information, and the requirement that people have to disclose their personal details to the police when asked. The current assessment is that that is a fair limitation on rights, but I do think that that is something that the committee will need to interrogate, and I certainly hope we receive submissions on that, Madam Speaker. So for the time being, I do commend this bill to the House, but again, urge submitters to come having read the spreadsheet and just give us our assessment on whether they believe that the ground struck between some of these difficult choices is the correct one. Thank you.
Are you planning to put a submission on this bill?
Well, I'm not a gun owner, but
as a bystander, watching.
I could. Overall, I could give you a rundown of what my submission would look like. Overall, I agree with the intent of this bill, but there are certain issues that need to be addressed before it can get my full support. But I agree with the intention, like of controlling things like 3D printing and all that stuff. That's all good stuff. But yeah, there's just a couple of things that need to be ironed out. But yeah, so I'll just go over what Venushi Walter basically just said. Venushi, she actually reflects what's in the bill in her speech, such as no sport shooting with MSSAs and health-related suspension changes. By doing this, the counter-argument she puts forward holds weight. It holds really good weight because she still means the bill. So the good news is, like I said before, is that Nicole McKee appears to be responsive to an extent to criticism. She seems to have taken some of that on board, which is good, because I was quite concerned with the original proposals, but it appears that she has taken some steps towards correcting that. So that's like, I will give her the benefit of the doubt in that area for now. That is subject to change if she screws up in the future. But anyway, Venushi, she brought up a really interesting point about balance regarding mental and physical health and firearm licenses. So licenses being suspended for a longer time, so that's 12 months as opposed to 3 months, means the person cannot legally access their firearms for a longer time while the health issue is being addressed. Now, I think this is very good because this could prevent rushed decisions or short-term crises from leading to immediate reintroduction of firearms. It's a much more humane and practical way. And practical as recovery from a mental health crisis can take longer than 90 days. Like, come on, you've had someone in your family die, you're depressed. It's going to take you longer than 90 days to get through that. But here's the crux of Venushi's point, and it's got good nuance in it. Does a 12-month suspension provide enough safety? Is there a risk that a person with a chronic relapsing condition could regain access only to deteriorate again later? And we do know that with conditions like depression, right? Once you've had depression, it can become a reoccurring disease, right? So that's something you've got to watch for. So it is a good question that she brought up. That's very, very good and very legitimate. Solid speech from Venushi.
Yeah. We'll have a quick nosing about the voting.
Okay.
Because things don't feel right there.
That the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Arms Bill, first reading.
The question is that the Arms Bill be considered by the Justice Committee. Those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Members, I call on order of the day number 2.
Hold on a minute. I thought Scott Wallace was going to say no. Where did the Greens go? Where did the Party Māori go? They're gone. They're on the building. Where did they go?
You see what I mean? How the Hansard team voted for the bill. But we had to do that because, you can't say you're against the bill and then somehow not sit there and go, no.
Yeah, it's like, hold on, wait.
The thing is, you can only request a party vote if someone says no.
It's like, okay, well, maybe Scott was like, oh, stuff it. I'm off to drink some whiskey now.
I don't think he drinks his whiskey in the debating chamber.
No, but I wouldn't blame him if he did. Some of those bills are really painful to listen to.
Well, they were back in the day where, some of the people used to smoke in the debating chamber.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the Greens apparently were like that in the early 2000s. They did cannabis back then.
Yeah, I would join them. Seriously, with all these bills being pushed forward under urgency, I would get high as a motherfucker.
Yeah, and I do believe that Speaker Jerry Wall was known for always having a cigarette in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to the second bill, the Crime Amendment Bill, first reading.
New Zealand Labour.
Bill be now read at first.
5. The question is agreed.
Animal Welfare, Regulations for Management of Pigs Amendment Bill, third reading.
I call on Government Order of the Day number 4.
Crimes Amendment Bill, first reading.
Honourable Paul Goldsmith.
Present a legislative statement on the Crimes Amendment Bill.
That legislative statement is published under the authority of the House and can be found on the Parliament website. Honourable Paul Goldsmith.
I move that the Crimes Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Justice Committee to consider the bill. At the appropriate time, I intend to move that the committee be instructed to consider the amendment set out on amendment paper number 436 in my name, and if it sees fit to recommend amendments accordingly, despite Standing Order 246 (2).
Keep going.
Madam Speaker, this government is committed to fixing the basics in law and order and ensuring victims' interests are at the centre of the justice system. A vital part of that is making sure criminals face real consequences for crime. This bill is a wide-ranging one. It amends the Crimes Act to ensure criminals face longer penalties for coward punches, attacking first responders, retail crime, human trafficking, and further retail crime. Madam Speaker, we know how dangerous coward punches are. People can be killed or suffer lifelong brain injuries, yet perpetrators often receive lenient sentences, and that changes with this legislation. The bill introduces 2 specific offences that reflect the gravity of the crime. Where a victim suffers grievous bodily harm from a strike to the head or neck, the maximum penalty will be 8 or 15 years imprisonment, depending on the intent of the perpetrator. The bill also adds an offence of manslaughter by strike to the head or neck, which affirms that this conduct is manslaughter if it does not constitute infanticide or murder. The maximum penalty will be life imprisonment. This offence does not limit or affect the application of manslaughter under Section 171 of the Crime Act. Our culpable homicide regime is long-standing, and there are inherent complexities of this regime. The Select Committee will be able to hear submissions and consider whether we've struck the right balance on this. Both of these coward punch offences will be added to the 3 strikes regime to ensure mandatory sentences in line with that regime. The bill also strengthens the consequences for assaulting first responders and corrections officers by introducing 3 new offences. Where others may flee, the first responders and prison officers run towards danger to help those who need urgent assistance. Assaulting them puts multiple lives at risk, so there must be greater consequences for those acts of violence. Our hard-working police officers, firefighters, paramedics and correction officers deserve better. These offences represent 2-year increases on the maximum penalties that would currently apply. The most serious offence of 7 years in prison will also be added to the 3 strikes regime. These new offences will apply whether they're on duty or not, and whether they're responding to emergencies at the time or not. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, retail crime is an ongoing challenge. All around New Zealand, business owners and hard-working New Zealanders are being victimised. There's about 230,000 people work in our retail sector. Many of them young New Zealanders just trying to make some extra money and make a living, and they shouldn't have to feel unsafe in their working environment like many have. And of course, the cost of retail crime borne by law-abiding citizens is costing the country billions of dollars. For too long, business owners have been feeling left helpless as thieves walk out of their stores whenever they please with stolen goods. Currently, citizens' arrests can only be carried out if the offence is 3 or more years imprisonment or after 9 p.m. at night. Now, we don't think that makes any sense. The retailers shouldn't have to flip through a copy of the Crimes Act or check the clock before they try and stop somebody stealing from their livelihood. And that's why the bill simplifies the citizens' arrest provisions to apply to any Crimes Act offence at any time of the day. And to anticipate some of the arguments that might be thrown across the House, members of the public are not obliged to carry out a citizen's arrest. It's only if they think it's appropriate in the circumstances. If they think it's appropriate to hold on to somebody until the police arrive, then they have that option. Of course, they must contact the police and follow all the instructions given by the police. The bill also makes it easier for the police to swiftly punish shoplifters who are not prosecuted through the courts for by introducing an infringement regime, which doesn't result in criminal convictions but sends a clear message. And so the amendment paper I have tabled alongside the bill will introduce a new shoplifting infringement into the Summary Offences Act. The infringement will apply when somebody removes property from a retail premises without a reasonable excuse. It will give the police an additional tool to respond swiftly and directly to the behaviour. The bill also adds a new offence of theft which is done in a threatening or disorderly manner, something that retailers are often faced with, and we want to make life easier. I want to thank the Ministerial Advisory Group for their work on these issues. Finally, we're strengthening the exploitation offences. Since 2009, more than 50 victims of people trafficking have been identified, but only 4 prosecutions have been undertaken. Just 2 of these prosecutions have led to a conviction, and we believe it could be the tip of the iceberg. The bill increases the penalties for 2 offences in dealing in slaves and in dealing with people under the age of 18. This aligns then with the 20-year maximum imprisonment penalty for people trafficking. We're modernising our trafficking offence for both international and domestic trafficking and making the offence more consistent with international standards. We're also ensuring that child trafficking is easier to prosecute by removing the requirement for a child to have been deceived or coerced. It clarifies that a trafficked person or child cannot consent to any part of the offence. And I want to thank my colleague Greg Fleming for his work on the Members' Bill which advanced this penalty change, and to all the submitters and advocates for change in this area. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, this bill puts victims first and cracks down on people traffickers and people smugglers. We're restoring law and order and continuing our efforts to reduce the number of victims of crime. And I commend this bill to the House.
I would love to know what happens if person A is doing what they believe is a reasonable citizen's arrest to person B, but the bystanders go no, and the person A is physically, in order to ring 111, would not be able, would have to let go of the person because the bystanders are going, no, your citizen's arrest is unjustified. I wonder how that would work, because, like, you know, if someone is being restrained by a citizen's arrest, are they going to be able to get out their phone and ring 111, or will they have to allow an additional person to do so? If an additional person is a witness and go, actually, mate, I don't think your citizen's arrest is justified, you know, screw you, I'm not going to do that. What happens in that situation?
I mean, one can only just look at what's happening now in America with the ICE raids, right?
Exactly. Arrest now, ask questions, hopefully you don't ask questions later.
Like, as someone who's been doing martial arts now for almost 20 years, I can speak on a bit about this one, because I have had family members who have also helped to train as well, who have actually undergone face-to-face against someone holding a knife in a shop, okay? Yes. Very scary situation. Now, if the shopkeeper, I'm going to use my older sister's case as an example here, right? She's been practicing Maorako, which is Māori weaponry, for about 10 years now. She was at the shop with the boss, right? The boss came front to front with a kid with a knife, okay? Now, do you think doing a citizen's arrest in that situation would be the right course of action, trying to pin this kid down?
No, exactly not. It's not.
You're correct about where it happened. To pin this kid down. Okay, you've got my sister there. You got a kid with a big knife, right? Kid's about 12, 13 years old, can still do damage with that knife, okay? So you know what my sister did? She picked up a broom, whacked him in the face, and pushed him out the store. He ran off, and guess where he ran off to? To his
Mum
mates.
and Dad.
Nope, to his mates sitting in the car, gang members. And the shopkeeper ran after them. The shopkeeper could have got himself killed. I'm not kidding. Like this happens in rural communities, right? You want to call the police? You want to hold a citizen down for 15 minutes while the police come?
God, the local cop would have to sit down there, put their beard down, put on their uniform. It will take a 10-minute ritual before the local cop even gets out there.
That's right. And not to mention, like, you look at places like America, right? If you hold someone down in the wrong position, like you're asphyxiating them, right? If you put them in something like a rear naked headlock, right? You can kill them.
Like
this
George
happens.
Floyd.
Yeah, knee to the neck. Yep, that kills them.
There was
a military guy.
And do you want a citizen's arrest to result in murder? And the other question is, if your citizen's arrest results in murder, should you be charged with murder? Not charged with manslaughter, charged with murder.
Yeah, but here's the other thing too, is when we look at the sucker punch laws, right? If someone, what if a shopkeeper perceives, okay, someone's stealing from me, I'm going to whack them, right? And then they hit the ground, die.
Well, at the moment, to me, the least confrontational citizen's arrest policy is typically, it's what happens in the National Bank and which is now ANZ's, is the double door entry and having the person locked in the double doors.
That's
the
a much safer
safest
approach.
form of citizen's arrest you could use.
Yes, it is.
It's the safest form.
The minute you start putting hands on another person, right? If I'm speaking to someone who's done like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that, if you put someone in a lock or you hold them there, like I said, you can kill them or give them brain damage, right? Are you going to sit there for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes while a cop comes?
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, like the thing is, in Ikitahuna or in Paitoa, well, you might get a cop there in a realistic time, but it might not be quite quick enough. If you get that happen in Pongaroa up in Akatea, which are two rural communities, in there, you could be looking at over an hour.
That's right. And not to mention, like, it's just, you could have people that could jump you.
Yeah, it's not like in Newtown where you ring 111 and you've got with the race of whether the police are going to come from the Kaburni police station or the Wellington Central police station. Not everywhere has that privilege.
Like sometimes, I'm going to say now, guys, it sucks, but sometimes it's safer to just let the person take that 50-cent packet of chips or whatever. Okay, sometimes it's just safer for you to just let them go out the door. At least they're on camera.
Yeah.
At least the police can go, okay, thank you for giving me their identification and giving me their description. Now I can go track them down. It's better than you did. Yeah. But I just want to go over everything Paul Goldsmith said. So his speech on the Crimes Amendment Bill, he made 6 claims, right? A review on the official regulatory impact statement revealed that most are misleading or unsupported, while one is critically important, and that's the one against human trafficking. So firstly, the claim of fixing the basics and putting victims first is undermined by the process itself. The RIS admits the solutions were predefined by the coalition agreement with no real consultation with victims group or the judiciary. There we go. This isn't victim-centrist reform. It's implementing a political checklist. Now, for those wondering why I did a funny face, it's because I'm reading. I've got more notes here. So on cowpunch laws, the evidence is clear, right? The Ministry of Justice found no problem with the current law. No problem. Their preferred option was the status quo. So the push for new offences is driven by media perception, not evidence, right? That much is laid out in the RIS, and people can go check it out. I have linked it in the chat. And the police actually warned that new law would be too difficult to use. So for assaults on first responders, the minister conflates a needed practical fix with excessive punishment. Everyone agrees on fixing a workability issue in the current law. However, the minister's extra step, that's Goldsmith, a new offence added to the 3 strikes regime, was actually not recommended by officials that works for the ministry, who said that it would disrupt the proportionality of our entire assault framework. This bill is really bad, guys. On retail crime, simplifying citizens' arrest, it's a logical change, right? It appears very logical on the surface level. It's like, oh, just give them more powers. But it's a dangerously simplistic solution, like I just said before. It actually incentivizes confrontation, and it puts shopkeepers at risk. And it actually does nothing to fix the real crisis, which is a system where only 16% of reported retail theft leads to court. We should probably fix that shit. The minister also promised an infringement scheme, but it's not in the bill. Instead, there's a new criminal offence, and this is a major issue.
And actually, here's the other thing is, if you get someone who's instantly fined for a crime, what are the parameters got to be to ensure that instant result is given? Because if someone's fined and they're challenged in court and it found out that the shopkeeper lied or got the wrong person, what punishment should be? Should there be a $50,000 fine for the shop owner for falsely reporting someone's not, because now someone's been punished when they shouldn't have? Should they get 4 years? Was it between 4 and 7 years in prison, which is typically what given to perjury? Like at which point, like I've got no problem, if there is a thing of an instant result for punishment, but there needs to be the recourse when that say fine is wrongly issued. So say someone asks for surveillance footage on a fine to find out, well, actually I wasn't there, mate. Here's the surveillance footage. Does that immediately go, oh, whoopsie, here's a mistake, and the ticket gets run off, or does it have to go to court for a judge to say, yes, sorry, that shouldn't have been done?
Look, at the end of the day, we should not be creating laws that incentivizes inexperienced people to put their lives in danger, right? For no good reason. Like I like this response here. As a first responder, we're told to limit our limited ability to do something. However, we use the force required to make the environment safe. Yes, that is the correct approach. Like, for example, if you're a shopkeeper, right, sometimes the right approach is just let the kid walk out the store with the lollies, right? There's no point throwing yourself into danger where that kid might have a knife or something, right? Like, this is the basics of self-defense, right? If you're not there to get stabbed, you're defending yourself. So that's step number 1. If you're there, you got a knife between you and the other guy who's holding the knife, right? Someone's pointing a knife at you. The second thing you should do is get behind something, right? Put a barrier up between you and them, because pointy thing goes stabby in you from multiple different angles.
Yeah. And it's actually quite interesting what's been going through the chat on here, on the conversations on there about, with first responders. It's interesting the fact that they're not actually trained to deal with that.
No, they're not. And so, and that's why everything I'm saying now, if someone comes up to you with a knife or something, the first thing you do is get the hell out of the way of that knife, because, look, a knife will go where a wrist can go, okay?
Yeah.
There is no kung fuing your way out of that. You have to trap it. Okay, you have to stop the arm from moving.
And put it this way, we can sound as dumb as that lovely MP from Georgia's Congressional 15th District, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who sat there in retaliation to the BBC reporter, well, at least we don't have mass stabbings like they do in the UK.
No, we just got mass shootings instead. There's a reason why in America they keep the shotgun behind the desk, okay? Because people do walk into those shops with smaller guns, or knives, or baseball bats, or hammers. The shit happens, right? So,
and maybe, what do you call it? A good meter-wide counter is a good safety feature.
Yeah, it's like, okay, guys, what's wrong with old-fashioned fog cannons and siren and noise deterrents and, having a nice...
The amount of them you see in dairies in Wellington, God, every dairy you walk into now has got a fog cannon.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is probably a much safer thing to have than...
It is, because it gives you, it creates a barrier between you and the attacker. It gives you a chance to get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
And get behind safety.
Okay, let's get to Ginny Anderson to see her first reading speech.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Honourable Ginny Anderson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I was trying to imagine, Madam Speaker, how this bill with so many changes might have come about in the shape it has, because in all my years working on justice policy as a public servant, as an advisor, have I ever seen such a hodgepodge of different measures all jammed into one bill. And I wonder whether Paul Goldsmith was maybe sitting at his desk late one night and the phone rang and Christopher Luxon gave him a call and said, I just want to say one thing to you, Paul. I've been looking over my KPIs and you're not up to scratch. You're not really measuring up here. There's a whole bunch of deliverables that you haven't done. And so this bill was basically Paul Goldsmith sweeping his desk of all the work he was meant to do over the course of the year into one bill and giving that over to officials to legislate into one omnibus bill, which we're debating here today. Because there's a whole range of things in this bill. Some of the things are actually not such a bad idea. Some are sort of in between, and some are just plain dangerous. And so I'll focus on the dangerous ones in my brief speech today. So the dangerous ones that we like the least is the citizen's arrest provision. And the reason we say that is because the police themselves say that this is dangerous. Officials both from the Ministry of Justice and from police have warned the government that this is a dangerous piece of legislation. They say in advice that it would escalate low-level theft into more violent situations and potentially endanger the lives of those people who were the business owners. It even suggests in some of the police advice that we received that there would be a situation if a business owner had detained and restrained an offender, an alleged offender, and if they were there for a period of time, that business owner might even be able to be charged with kidnapping if there was they were held in certain ways. So this actually, and police has acknowledged that it actually exposes those very people that this legislation is trying to protect to either greater harms from not only being arrested themselves but also from violence that's escalated in their shop premises. The second group of those people that spoke against this, some are on the Minister's own Retail Crime Advisory Board. That would be the head of Retail New Zealand, Caroline Young, who was very concerned that this legislation, and she actually states, will make sure that she is concerned that retailers could get hurt or even killed as a result of introducing this measure. That frontline retail workers, who are often young people in their first job, do not go to work to do law enforcement. And that's essentially what this bill is doing. It's requiring retailers to act as law enforcement officers. Yep. And so the third group of people I'd like to refer to who also said that this was a real concern, they were small business owners themselves, that there was commentary within ethnic media and communications about the concerns of those small business owners that offenders would be preparing themselves with weapons more so than they are now, and that this would escalate situations where they already found themselves in a dangerous situation. And this begs the question, Madam Speaker, if the police don't support it, if the Ministry of Justice don't support it, if Retail New Zealand don't support it, and small business owners themselves don't even support it, who does? And the answer to that is the Committee of One, Sunny Koshal, who's been given this as an idea to try and fix it. That's the only person we know who actually has supported this. But I'm going to refer to one of my favourite quotes out of all those I've just referenced. And the best quote actually comes from a police officer, a detective. And they say, a police detective says, the real solution was more police staff. But that is unfortunately what this government has completely failed to deliver on, because they promised New Zealanders in 2 years they would have 500 more police by the 27th of November. That's just passed. And right now they have 240 police officers. They didn't even make the halfway mark. So the real solution to this problem that's been addressed is by having our frontline resourced and having enough police officers to respond to crime. Because what is going to happen is there will be retailers calling the police who are restraining someone, and there won't be someone there to come out and attend the job. And that is the real problem. We look forward to the Select Committee. We invite New Zealanders to all come and submit on Christmas stocking number 1 of a grab bag of focus group records that have been put together in this Christmas selection by Paul Goldsmith, to submit your ideas on the variety of different ideas.
Dr. Lawrence Yunnan.
Okay, Jenny, you roasted the bill and then you support it to Select Committee. What the fuck? Okay, but she's not wrong. Her critique is factually grounded in the official evidence. Like, her speech correctly identifies the bill as a collection of prepackaged political promises rather than a coherent evidence-based strategy.
Exactly. And I mean, like, the other thing is, if you were to give someone the power of citizen's arrest, I believe that you should have to have a license for it.
You should be getting training. If you go to the citizen's arrest, you should be attending your local MMA gym, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym, boxing gym, gym.
Like, the thing is, be a licensed citizen's arrest officer.
Yeah, you should have training for that. They should show you how to put, put someone in a safe lock.
Yeah, which can probably help alleviate things there. But yeah, Ginny's point there is what happens if the police can't be there to sit there and deal with the detained person.
Again, there are better solutions to this, like having Māori wardens.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Like
and guess
wardens.
what? They could be licensed, trained citizens arrests. They actually are properly trained, and they'll deal with de-escalation and that sort of thing there. And they'll know when I mean, put it this way, I'd rather have a Māori warden sit there and come up and try and sort out a theft than, say, a shopkeeper who's out on range. At least the Māori warden's an independent person.
And at least, based on, unfortunately, the demographic of people that tend to commit crime, they're probably more likely to listen to the Māori warden.
Exactly.
Like, hey, look, I know you're not a fan of Tamitha Paul, but she did cook with the suggestion of increasing Māori wardens. We do need more Māori wardens.
And that's something I would still support of what she said.
Yes.
That's the thing. Might not be a fan of who she is on some issues, but when she says the right shit at the right times, always got to sit down there and actually applaud it. And that's the thing. It's like, you might not like Nicole McKee with the guns, but sometimes she has a good bill called the arms bill.
Sometimes she's got a good idea. Sometimes that happens.
I mean, put it this way. Marion Street thought the euthanasia legislation was a good bill of David Seymour's. Marion Street is a former Labour MP.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that sometimes you just have to look at the bill. But unfortunately, I looked at this bill and it's shit. So this bill is not a good bill. It's not a real bill. It's got no structural support to it. It's a bill that's probably going to cause more harm than good. We haven't even gone to the sucker punch stuff. What is a sucker punch? Like, if I'm on a camera, right? Technically, you don't have to punch someone, right? I know the legislation says, even a slap, a slap is counted. Okay, whatever. But if you were just to walk up behind someone, let's say, you got two idiots that are drunk, and idiot one decides to walk up to idiot two and shove them, push them, and their head goes, hits the pavement, they're still dead.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't have to touch the neck or the head. Dead. So why are we making a special exception for punch? And then, by the way, here's a pro tip. Don't punch in a street fight. Slap. You're less likely to break the bones in your hands. Slapping or using your elbows.
There's some good slap scenes that I can think of from different TV shows that you sit there and see.
Yes. Use slap or elbow. Much more effective in self-defense as well than punch, because punching, you can break these little delicate knuckles, little delicate bones in your hands. It ruins a lot of fighters' careers. Slapping or elbows is much better. But by the way, I'm not advocating for violence. I'm just saying this is a better option in self-defense if you're stuck in a corner. Literally.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what Lawrence Zunan's got to say.
Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of the Green Party of Aotearoa to oppose the Crimes Amendment Bill because, to be honest, this is a shocking bill. Are there things in here that are potential of them? But you know what? As I think a good analogy is, just because you're making a muffin for someone and you have a component of muffin being poisonous, it doesn't mean that the entire muffin is okay to eat. And this is a really good example of what we are seeing here with this bill. There are some good components to this bill, for sure. However, I want to focus my attention and my contribution on the things that are more concerning. And I think the first thing kind of goes without saying that the retail crime aspect of this, again, I do believe that the inclusion of more and more into the smorgasbord of a bill is very much an indication that either the government wants to rush things further along and make things look like they're tying more things into one bill to try and get as many things over the line as possible before they're kicked out of government, or it's simply the fact that the bill itself just, they want to package some nice things in here just so then they can say that, well, look, other political party has decided to vote against this by having this really horrendous aspect of the retail crimes in this as sort of the main focus of this bill. But you know what, we're gonna chuck some other stuff in here as well. So I do want to first start by focusing on the citizens' arrest, which is, like I said, the big focus in here in this bill. And it is astonishing. It is absolutely astonishing to see a government that cares so little about genuine evidence that they are willing to go against the advice of police. They're willing to go against the advice of the Ministry of Justice to do something that nobody really wants. except for, as we put out, one person. Except for one person. I love the fact that the other side of the House, I was going to say opposition, the other side of the House talks about victims. You know, there is actually no evidence that suggests this is going to be better for victims. Because what it's going to be is, this is going to be a race to the bottom for people to be more and more armed, and that side of the House need to deal with the fact that more and more people are going to be getting hurt as a result of this bill. Because that's what is going to happen if this bill gets introduced. Because you know what? Even Retail New Zealand says, oh, this is not something that we wanted. Actually, we don't agree with the chair of the Minister Advisory Group on this. We don't agree when it comes to use of force. Because why? For Retail New Zealand to say something like that, it means they also need to consider their responsibility to their employees, to the people who are just coming out of school, having their first job, and now having to deal with the fact that they themselves may be compelled to. They may be, by their work, what are they going to do for insurance? What are they going to do from a perspective of health and safety? And what is they going to do for the general safety of all individuals involved? With something like this, the other really astonishing thing is, as far, and well, we are more than happy to tease it out in the Select Committee, the really astonishing thing about this bill, and particularly about citizens' arrest, is that there is no safeguard, no provision for children.
Yes.
There's nothing in this bill that says that person, at least now that I can see, it has to be over a certain age. So what this government has done is introduce a bill that allows for the use of force on children. Let that sink in. That's what this bill has the potential to do. And ironically, then they come back and talk about other aspects of this in terms of how they are going to be victim-focused. Well, they may tell themselves that they're victim-focused to get them through the night and help them sleep. But the fact is that we're going to be seeing more children hurt, and the Green Party will not stand for that. We will not support this bill.
Todd Stevenson.
Okay, all right. Lawrence, thank you so much for bringing that point up, because he's absolutely correct. Could you imagine doing a citizen's arrest on a 5-year-old?
Oh,
you know
God, I can see that in happening for some power trigger person to sit there and try and do that.
Like, this bill is escalatory in nature, especially the citizens arrest segments, right? It encourages escalation, not de-escalation. Okay? When you're in a situation where you're dealing with someone who's stealing something from you, okay, you can replace a stolen item. Okay? If you don't have insurance, go get it for your shop. But look, you can replace that. You can't replace a life. And for God's sakes, you know, if you do something that causes a permanent injury to the person you're trying to stop, what the fuck was the point? You're better off just letting them walk out the store.
Sorry, I just got cramp in the leg. Oh.
Okay. While Sam's dealing with that, I will continue to talk. Give me 2 seconds. Right, there we go. Okay, right. So, yes. Even though Lawrence's speech is highly rhetorical, he talks about muffins. We love muffins around here. It is an accurate critique that correctly identifies the bill's most controversial flaw, which is Sam's leg cramps, but also the gap between its rhetoric and official evidence. So the citizens' arrest provisions contain no safeguards for children. Lawrence, fantastic point you brought up. This is a significant legal and ethical omission. The official analysis provides no evidence that a citizen's arrest will help victims. It also provides no evidence that standing up and walking around Sam's room will reduce cramps. But instead, it identifies the enforcement gap or lack of prosecutions as the real problem. The policy process, this policy was rushed and politically constrained, contradicting claims of a principled, victim-focused approach. I actually think the citizens' arrest segment is going to cause more victims than it's going to prevent.
Oh, exactly. I don't like, and also here's the other thing is, oh, whoopsie, I got it wrong. Well, actually,
whoops, I used too much force.
When I detained you, you've passed that line, and when you pass that line, should you be held responsible? That's why I'm saying, should someone who is wrongly detained for either a citizen's arrest or, say, instantly fined through a shoplifting offence, what should in the legislation, there needs to be also recommended, if this bill is to pass, is to have safeguards in place so that if you wrongly citizens arrest someone, or you do something, or you falsely accuse someone that leads to an instant on the spot fine that later goes to court, it is very much immediate that a person could, a judge can sit there and go, actually, you shouldn't have done that. I'm holding you in contempt for 30 days. Prosecutor, prosecutor, I'd like this person to be charged and go down that path there. A short, sharp, wrongly issued punishment does not address the problem. When someone gets a short, sharp, wrongly introduced punishment, you destroy trust. And when you destroy trust, you get a system where you sit there like benefit sanctions. Wrongly issued sanctions do way more damage than just doing it once, doing it right.
Yeah. So I would go one step further. I don't think a citizen's arrest should apply to theft, retail theft.
Yeah.
I only think that a citizen's arrest should apply to if you've got someone committing assault. So if you've got someone actually beating up another person, and you need to control them for the safety of yourself and for the other people in the shop. I really think using citizens' arrest against someone that's committing retail theft. And by the way, here's a bit of history, family history on my side. My dad, as some of you may know, worked as an optometrist in Upper Hutt for 30 years, okay? He worked for prisoners that came out of the Remutaka prison, okay? Sometimes they walked in there and they took stuff, right? They took, contact lens wash or whatever. They took eye drops. You know what my dad didn't do? He didn't fucking body slam them. He didn't try to do a citizen's arrest on them. He's just like, oh well, they obviously need it, because that's the sort of guy my dad. Because my dad wasn't an idiot. My dad was not an idiot. That's why he's still alive. But he didn't try to citizens arrest a bunch of guys in the Remutaka prison over some fucking eye drops. Like, guys, you can replace that. You can't replace a life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, as what Jason has got there, it's a power trip for some. I had a situation which I could describe as a citizen arrest. The crime was so-called yelling at a staff member of a company that never, and the recorded of my surveillance footage proved she was a liar.
I just want to address this point. Retail theft of a deadly weapon, though. Yes, that's what happened to my sister.
Yeah.
So my sister did the right thing, pushed the person out. Okay? Create a barrier between you. Do what is necessary to get them out or to detain them if it is safe to do so. That's a good reason that person is now a public threat to you and to the other shoppers, okay? They're holding a deadly weapon. That's a good reason to detain someone. But if they're just taking something, right, you don't need to body slam them. Just let them go. It's not worth it. Don't escalate the situation. You've got cameras, right? I hope you've got cameras if you have a shop. Record that shit.
I've got them at my coffee cart. I never had them when I started, and I got them not because of staff problems. It's because of dickhead people who think they're above the law. Yeah. Like the big one of being bullied by John, the polling place manager at the Newtown polling booth, who tried to, for 4 weeks, intimidate me out of my sight. That's the reason why the cameras were put in.
That's like what Jenny Anderson said, right? A lot of this is just to replace police officers, and the fact that a lot of retail theft crimes, they don't go to court. Like, I think it was only 16% go to court. We need to fix that part. That way, shopkeepers don't feel like they have to throw themselves at someone to detain them. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because that's actually quite concerning. The fact that only 16% go to court. Also, the other one is, what is the value of the charges that are going to court? That's the other thing is, are they ones that the cases that aren't going to court? Are they either they don't stack up? How many of them don't actually evidently stack up? Versus also the fact the value they deemed unjustifiable, or as could be seen there is it a kid?
Yeah, is it a kid with a knife? That happened to my older sister. Do you think my sister, who's in her 30s, right, if she got up towards this kid and managed to grab them and then put them in a rear naked headlock and hold them there for 20 minutes, do you think that would have been helpful for the situation, or do you think they would have hurt the kid? She did the right thing by getting the broom and just poof out the door. They got the kid later, by the way. Didn't get very far.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what Todd Stephenson's got to say. This will be interesting.
Thank you. I rise in support of the Crimes Amendment Bill. Thank you. It's been 2 years and the opposition still don't get it. They didn't listen to New Zealanders. They didn't hear what people's concerns were in the community. And again, they're not listening to New Zealanders and learning the lesson. The Honourable Ginny Anderson tried to grade the great Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith. He's actually doing an excellent job, supported by Minister McKee. We've got the amazing police team. I see Minister Costello supporting Minister Mitchell, and we're actually making a difference. New Zealanders can just go on to the website and actually see what we're doing on our targets, and we can actually read target number 4, reducing violent crime. What do we think that's doing, people? Well, it's on track. There has been a reduction of 38,000 people facing violent crime. I would call that a success, and Minister Goldsmith can hold his head high. Now, we are very pleased to support this, because ACT is actually cares about focusing on what matters, and that's making Kiwis safe in their homes, their shops and their communities. We've already seen the successful 3 strikes. We've seen a toughening up of sentences, and this bill is, again, listening to the concerns of the community and delivering it. We're going to see some more clarity around retailers, citizens' arrest. Yes, and we can work through the issues, but that's great that that's in there. We've got the protection of frontline workers, police, paramedics, correction officers. They deserve to be looked after, and that's what we're doing. Coward punches, been a real concern in our community. Again, we're going to have a look at that area. There might be some more work to do around maybe minimum sentences and making sure that that coward punch law is actually effective. But we're going to do that in the Justice Select Committee, because that's what we do. These reforms are necessary, and particularly around the ones for human trafficking, and also making sure that vulnerable children are looked after. So, look, very proud to support this on a government that's actually listened and getting on with dealing with crime.
Honourable Casey. Okay, all I have to say to that is, Todd, get in a street fight and then come back to me. I just want to address this point. This is very sad. This is very tragic. I'm very sorry that happened to your mother-in-law.
Was it sorry?
But I don't think the solution in that case would have been your mother-in-law doing a citizen's arrest. We do need to have more eyes. We need to have wardens. We need to have more police that are competent at following up on this stuff. We need to have a better process of holding people accountable. But I don't think the citizen's arrest process is going to help. I think it is going to cause more victims. Yeah, so that's just my 2 cents on that. As for Todd, Todd, come on, man. You're a lawyer. You can do better than this. But look, he's supporting measures that are not supported by the police and justice officials. Look, I've just gone on for almost an hour now explaining why citizen's arrest, the way how it's being proposed, is not good, and it's escalatory in nature and will get people hurt. It will get people hurt. And I don't want to see people get hurt. Enough people get hurt on a daily basis as it is.
Yeah. Okay. Casey Costello.
Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak on behalf of the Crimes Amendment Bill. And somewhat, the word astonishing was raised several times by the Green Party member. And it is astonishing that the party that is advocating for defunding the police now does not want to have anybody to have powers. They don't want the police. They don't want individuals to have powers to protect their own property. I'm not quite sure where they're sitting. I would agree. It is astonishing. It is also astonishing that the party who has repeatedly advocated or presented themselves as being the ones that is advocating for oppressed workers just completely glossed over the fact that this bill represents a modernisation of our legislation in terms of the laws around trafficking, recognising the seriousness of the offences, recognising the need to standardise the penalties, and actually doing some proactive steps to deliver the things that that party claims that they represent. And amongst this discussion that we've had repeatedly about we're putting this burden on businesses, because what was the word? Low-level theft will escalate into serious violence. Have we not seen the news lately? It is already escalating into serious violence, committed by young people. This is providing a tool to give protection to small businesses, should they choose to be protected if they have to take powers into their own hands. And that can only be seen as a good thing. And next, Madam Speaker, I would highlight the protection for our first responders. New Zealand Zealand First was ensuring that this was part of our coalition agreement commitment, because it is our first responders across the board that we rely upon to protect the public from serious offences and from harm generally. And when they're racing into the fight, they need to be protected across the board for the great work that they do. Again, glossed over by the parties on the other side of the House. And finally, something that New Zealand First has campaigned for in 2020 and 2023 is the coward punch legislation. This is an incredibly horrible crime that has cost the lives of innocent people and has to be addressed, and we are grateful that this piece of legislation is addressing it. I am astonished, I would say, that the fact we were actually being criticised for doing too much in this piece of legislation. That is why we're here, to do too much, to make sure we get this stuff done, and we will deliver, and I have great pleasure in commending this bill to the House.
Oh, come on, Casey, you're a detective.
Maybe there's just too many things in the one bill, and possibly the good and the bad needs to be separated.
Okay, here's the good. The human trafficking reforms. Great. With the bad, everything else. Okay, so, Casey, come on. You should know this. You're a detective. Why does small crime happen? And why does it escalate to violent crime? Here's the reason why. Poverty plus proximity. If people are poor and they're struggling financially, especially younger people, they're going to go out and steal shit, aren't they? They're going to go out and want to get initiated to a gang, because the gang provides some security. It's familial connections, right? Surprise! The gangs exist because of the foster care system. Because of the way how we're doing prison, keeping people in prison, right? We're not taking a rehabilitative, restorative approach. We're taking a punish approach. And that's part of the reason why the crime's going up, because we're not providing holistic solutions to the problem.
Yeah.
It's like the last bill we just went over with the arms, with the arms bill, with Oreni and her really good points. There's a holistic approach that needs to be done here. And this is one of those bills that could provide a holistic approach to preventing these crimes. But Paul Goldsmith doesn't want to do that for whatever reason. It's just easier to just slam someone, or throw someone, body slam someone, and throw them into a prison cell somewhere and just leave them to rot. No, this is not the right approach. I do not commend this bill to the House. It's trash.
I'm just wondering, are you going to be staying for Ikara Rafferty at the next election?
I even if I did, I think, to be quite blunt, I think my lack of melanin might be a problem. I think people will probably want someone that has more melanin in their skin.
And the reason why I say Ikara Rafferty is because I don't want it to be Fight Night with Celia Wade Brown.
Why would I do
Electric?
Why would I do Fight Night with Celia Wade Brown? I've got nothing to fight
for.
For
the One Leper Electric Greens nomination. Because you both live in it.
Hey, look, listen. She can have the job. Parliament's a shithouse. I'd rather be in local body politics.
I don't know how she does it. I really don't. I straight like sitting and said to her, "You're married standing for Parliament." She goes, "Yep."
Well, she was telling me the other day how she got like 3 hours of sleep. It's like, fuck that. I'm not doing. Nah. I'd rather be on a community board. I don't want to get 3 hours of sleep to listen to trash.
Yeah, especially considering, like, for her, it's not exactly easy to get to and from Parliament either.
Oh, she's got a flat in Wellington. No, I'm not doxed. Celia, don't worry, I'm not doxing you. I don't even know where you live in Wellington. But I do know.
I think I have an idea if it's based on property she used to own. I have an idea where it is.
No doxing.
Yeah. But you never know. She might have sold it since then, or moved, or something on. Shall we skip over Cal Bates' seat warmer speech and go to was it Vanushi Walters' speech?
Mm-hmm.
like the appropriate or the candidate who would be thinking about what I get the government for Christmas this year, but I have been, and I think I've landed on an Oxford English dictionary. So the government can look up the term urgency and understand when it should truly be used. Feels like I begin my speech like this almost every week, but it is important. It is important because I did note the Honourable Chris Bishop's comments about urgency earlier in the week, and so I went to the lovely people at the Parliamentary Library to let me know how many hours under this government we've been under urgency compared to how many hours under the previous government we've been under urgency. And just for the information of the public, 30.4% of parliamentary hours to date under this parliament have been under the use of urgency. Yep, just 15 points. This is a bill that's being heard under urgency. 15.7 hours in the previous Parliament. That is almost double. That's extraordinary. So I will continue to remind government members that urgency is for actual urgent things. Now, my colleague Ginny Anderson did speak about the patchwork bill. The complaint is not so much about getting a lot done. It's about putting very different things into one bill. The reason it's a problem is because any government should be striving for cross-party agreement. And when you put in a set of things that are extremely controversial, with a set of things that parties can agree to, you essentially set the House up for an improper process. That is the complaint. And I'll speak about the last-minute amendment later, but it is a problem. I just wanted to highlight two issues with the Section 7 vet, or it's actually legal advice because the bill was deemed to be consistent with the Bill of Rights Act at the time that it was reviewed, and noting that changes have been made. But in terms of the citizens' arrest powers, it absolutely is a problem. We've heard that from the Police Association as well, who say that the bill is flawed, from the Manufacturers Association, from Retailers New Zealand, and from the people that we talk to. But what I was troubled by was the very light analysis of that power in the legal advice. I'll read it out to you. It says just this: the bill does limit freedom of expression in the new requirement for citizens who make arrests to contact the police, and that compels speech. However, this is readily justifiable under Section 5 of NZ BORA, and therefore not inconsistent with NZ BORA. That is it. That is not analysis, is one point. The second point is that it doesn't look at the fact that this bill empowers citizens, the public, to essentially perform a public function. This is our new free police service, as some have said to us. I think it was First Union. And therefore, potentially, you could argue that there should have been a broader analysis of that issue in terms of the legal advice provided, but there simply wasn't. And also, in terms of the attack to head or neck, the analysis says that it doesn't directly touch on a BORA issue. However, the bill would have the effect of adding the new offence responding to strikes to the head or neck to the list of qualifying offences in respect of which extended supervision orders can be made under the Parole Act. And you're all at this stage saying, aha, especially Justice Committee members, because we've had a declaration of inconsistency come to the committee on this issue. So if there are offences, if there are powers being added that would, in effect, extend the impact of this, then yes, it does have a direct impact. So there's absolutely a lot to unpack at Select Committee, and I look forward to hearing from a number of submitters who have already expressed the fact that they have concerns about these two parts of the bill, but I do look forward to them bringing their concerns directly to the government members, who I hope will be listening at that stage to some very serious rights-based concerns that they will no doubt raise. Thank you.
Venushi Walters is on fire tonight. Man, that's a second solid speech. I mean, heck, where the Riz highlights policy and evidence gaps, right? She highlights process and legal rights gaps. Damn. Her claim of widespread opposition is supported by the Riz's documentation of police and retail sector reservations. Her critique moves beyond the Riz's policy scope to point out potential constitutional and human rights implications that the regulatory analysis did not cover, right? While the Riz asks, is this good evidence-based policy? Venushi asks, is this being done through a proper rights-conscious legislative process? And her answer is pointing to rushed urgency and the bungling of controversial measures and light touch rights scrutiny. It accurately describes the context of the bill's introduction and identifies legitimate procedural and legal concerns that the Riz, by its nature, failed to address. So she actually found more problems than the Riz did.
Yeah. I don't know. Is she going to be the next Labour Party MP that's going to appear on the Order Paper podcast, like Camilla?
I don't know, but she was on fire tonight. She 2 good speeches back to back.
I know. Well, they were on different days, but yes, you are right. Yeah, and I'm trying to work on some type of graphic to have for our.
Hey, it just to jump in, it just
the agency.
It's like Minushi, fire speech. The problem is Labour still supported this to select committee. Why?
Yeah. Just for those who are wondering, we still have our poll open. Should firearm users be required to have indemnity insurance? Please go out and vote. Currently, 62% believe they should, and 38% believe they shouldn't.
Can you please explain what indemnity insurance is? I'm not even familiar with the word indemnity. I mean, look, I get hit in the head a lot, so there's a lot of words I don't know about. So, but please tell me.
Okay, indemnity insurance means the insurance policy is designed to restore the insured party to their financial position before the loss occurred, putting them back in the same financial position they were immediately in before the loss. This can be achieved by covering the cost of repair, replacement, or paying any settlement based on market item values, which accounts for depreciation. A key type of indemnity insurance is professional indemnity insurance, which protects professional and businesses from claims of negligence in their advice or services.
So you're referring to this to people who sell firearms?
I was more going to say holding firearms and potentially accidentally shooting someone.
Is holding a firearm license a business?
No, but that would be to the license holder. So for a business, they would have indemnity insurance for things such as like if their staff screw up. Doctors and nurses, lawyers, accountants, they typically are held at a personal level, not at a not at a corporate level. So they would have that personally against them. It's very common in the medical profession to have that. I know Shine, Morton's wife, pays it every year. It's a couple $100, but it's a requirement of her job. Or actually, I think the hospital actually pays for it. But basically, it covers for things like that. But it's to go, you're a risky person, your premiums go up.
Yeah, maybe a different type of insurance then. But I think for work-related things that require a firearm, absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, it's basically you basically are taking steps to sit there and cover it. I mean, I have that in my one is like my business has rental car cover for my van in case if it is off the road for an extended period of time. And I've heard all sorts of stories because I've just been to the panel beaters. Try having that a bumper was brought, had to be imported from Japan, got damaged in transit, took 6 weeks to get there, damaged in transit, replacement had to be sent out, car was another 6 weeks held up.
Damn, yep.
You know, like little things like that. So that's why you have rental car insurance, because that particular situation is very annoying.
Yes.
So I know someone else who had rental car cover insurance for their car, and the car sat waiting. It took 7 months for a repair to get in, so they had a rental car for so long.
I think Kiwibirb is trying to tell us to wrap up now.
No, you are not a producer of the show. You do you.
No,
we stop when we want to stop.
She's like that. She's trying to give us the hints.
No. The responses will come about now, just because it takes it like that 15 seconds to get through. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think everyone is done for tonight.
Yeah.
So
we'll be back next Sunday for our last. Was it Order Paper podcast to the end of 2025. We'll see you then.
And I'm going to go and eat dinner.
Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching The Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. from our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/it'sintheballot. The Order Paper podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot Productions, live at 8 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time.